Richard needs any introduction, Richard Gere.
You know, I've been doing this all over the world, but usually it's after the film. And unfortunately, I would prefer it that way, but my son in New York, my 6-year-old son, is giving a reading of a story he did on the gingerbread man tomorrow morning. So I have to catch a 9 o'clock flight to get back there. So it's just funny because I'm not going to be talking too much about the film because you'll be having your own experience with that.
That's right. So I think we have about 20 minutes or so before you have to jet, and then, as Richard said, after the screening, we're going to be hearing directly from the filmmakers as well as Tencho. So we're going to have a fantastic night of programming. But thank you so much. It is such a privilege and an honor, and it's really, I think, a privilege for all of us to have the opportunity to screen this film. I've had the chance to pre-screen it, and I think what I gathered from it so far is that it's not like there's a key to happiness where you just kind of unlock it. It's being at one with your mind. It's a practice, a continual practice. And I think that that's something that you, as a longtime practicing Buddhist, certainly have a grasp of. So talk a little bit about why you decided to do this film, why you're producing this film, and what it means to you.
Yeah, my only hesitation, I don't want to talk too much about the film because you're going to have your own experience with the film. So maybe not the content of the film, but maybe where it came from. You know, I've had the incredible good fortune to be a student of, and I hope a friend of, and a co-conspirator with the Dalai Lama for 45 years now. And you can imagine how many people want to make a film about His Holiness. Of course, everyone falls in love with him. And he said, let's make a film. And so there have been, it's funny, Philip, one of the directors here, and I think there's been 86 films made, and many of them really good films. Some of them not so good, but many of them really good. And I think the motivation is always really good. They fall in love with His Holiness and want to share it. So I'm a little skeptical about these films to begin with, and usually people want me to be involved in one way or another. So I knew this film was being made, and one of the directors is actually someone I had known for several decades. He's a still photographer, Manuel Bauer, and really good, incredible actually, still photographer. He's always around His Holiness, very humble, very quiet. He's always kind of there documenting everything. So I knew him, but I didn't know the other filmmakers. So they've been working on this for many years. About a year and a half ago, they brought it to me in New York. I said, okay, let me look at it. And my wife was in tears. And I was very moved by it. And as you'll see, there's some very, very special and unique things in this film that we've never seen His Holiness that way, and we won't see it again. It's a completely, in many ways, a unicorn. And I felt this was something, as a filmmaker, but also as a friend of His Holiness, a student of His Holiness, as a Buddhist, that there's some other elements that I could bring to this film and rethink it. And my longtime collaborator, Oren Moverman, who I don't know if you all know, but you should. We've made 6 films together, and so I brought Oren in. We got an editing room and a terrific editor, Mike Sellerman, and we started playing. And we brought in another composer who you'll see what was accomplished there, something extraordinary. And this document emerged, and beyond being a document, I mean, I originally thought
Hello.
Okay. So I thought, well, this is a wonderful film, and it was in. Let's make this as an anchor. In fact, Tencho Gyatso and I were talking about this. Let's be the anchor of His Holiness's 90th birthday, which was coming up in the next year and a half. And Tensho and I were there for his birthday, July 6th in Dharamsala, which was really incredible. So we started working on the film, but in the year and a half of finishing this film and exploring it and helping it find itself, the world has taken a very dark turn. I think we can all agree to that. And good-hearted people don't know what to do and don't know what has happened to our world or to ourselves. And we feel very passive in this moment. What do we do with the leadership we have, the craziness every day? How do we respond to that? And of course, this is the strategy of the bad guys. The bad guys want us to be powerless. They want us to feel like we're alone. So I think, as you'll see from spending an hour and a half that you will with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he is the corrective of that. He's the medicine. He's the deliverer of the medicine that I think can allow us to literally take a deep breath, step back, look at ourselves, look at our world, and question, is this who we are? Is this the world we want to live in? If it isn't, what are we going to do about it? And from His Holiness's point of view, two things have to happen. We have to really look to ourselves and say, what are we? Do we exist the way we appear to exist? Are we genuinely kind and generous? Is that truly who we are? Do we even have a separate existence from everyone else? I'm looking around here, there's probably a couple hundred people here, maybe right now. There's a couple hundred stories, incredible, complicated, interesting stories here. And there's one moment right now where we're all interconnected stories. Maybe that's all we are, stories. We're a label on a movement of energy, which at its very source is creative, it's open, it's vast, it's forgiving, it's loving, it's embracing. And let's get back to that. The truth. That is the truth. So I think that's the core of what we're trying to share with you right now and have a partnership in that communication of energies.
That was so beautiful. It feels like a meditation, like we started with a meditation. Thank you for that.
No charge.
Better than an app. So I think it would be interesting for folks to hear about your relationship with His Holiness the Dalai Lama. How did that first come to be?
Well, it must have been in previous lifetimes. It's just been so powerful that it wouldn't have come out of nothing. So, you know, I as probably everyone in this room, I was a teenager and looked at myself in the world and say, is this all? And the confusion of the teenager and early 20s of what is the world? What are we doing here? Is there any meaning to any of this? I did a lot of exploring, and Zen Buddhism really touched me, and I just rode with that, and I had good teachers, and I was able to develop a daily practice, which was really important. And then at 8, 9 years later, this was like 22 when I started the daily practice, maybe 30, I had this impulse to go to Tibet. And there wasn't very much literature translated into English at that point. There were 3 or 4 major books that were by a gentleman, Evans Vance. And they were wonderful books. I mean, the main one out of that still kind of blows my mind is the autobiography of Milarepa, the great Tibetan saint. And it's part of the greatest story in world literature, of the story of a teacher and a student. Just so moving and so beautiful. I didn't know anything about the Dalai Lama at this point. I certainly didn't know anything about the political history of what had happened to them, the Chinese invasion, the destructions, the escape into exile. I didn't know any of that. It was a very romantic voyage I was on with this. long story short, I ended up going not to Tibet because I was told if you go to Tibet, you're not going to see anything. The Chinese won't let you see anything. The Dalai Lama is in Dharamsala, he's in northern India, and the monasteries that have all been destroyed inside of Tibet are being rebuilt in India. So I made my way to India. In 1981, it was not easy to get to Dharamsala. It was all-night trains during monsoon, and to Pathankot in Punjab, and then from a car you found a car somehow to get to Himachal Pradesh and then to Dharamsala, and then maybe from lower Dharamsala you found some way to get to McLeodganj, which is right up as close as you can to the White Cap Mountains, and that's where they were. And after spending 2 weeks there in monsoon, I was able to meet His Holiness. And these stories can be like 3 or 4 hours long. I'm trying to condense as much as I can. So, I had a romantic idea, of course, that I was going to finally be in the presence of the Dalai Lama and he was going to wave his hand over me and I would be completely enlightened. And of course that didn't happen. But His Holiness was so real and so present and also so skillful. His Holiness, he was talking to his brother, who I fortunately was able to stay with while I was there. And his brother had perfect English, and we're talking, and I know he's saying, "Who is this guy?" And his brother told him he's an American actor. And he looked at me and he goes, "Oh, so you're an actor?" I'm like, "That's the last thing I want to talk about." I said, "Yeah." He said, "Oh, when you're doing this acting and you're really angry, are you really angry? And when you're laughing, are you really happy?" And went basically through all the human emotions. And I said, "Yeah, as an actor, you want it to be as real as it can possibly be. It makes everything more effective." But he said, "You're making the emotions, right?" I said, "Yeah." And he looked at me and he started laughing. And we started having this discussion about emotions. Here I was, a human being who was a bit of a magician, making emotions that had real power. I mean, to me, they were real. My body changed when I was angry. I was different when I was happy. My whole being with it. But I was a magician making emotions. And as we discussed it, we said, is it any different in what we take to be our real lives? Are they real emotions? Are they just a drama that we're playing out? Is there any basis to them that's real? And so that was the first mind training that His Holiness gave me. Was how real are any of these, the positive ones, the negative ones, all of them? Are they a certain game of storytelling that we're playing with ourselves? That we're the magicians who forgot that we were the magicians, conjuring emotions. So anyhow, that was the beginning, and obviously we've continued in so many ways, powerful ways, that a skilled teacher throws you back on yourself to actually see your mind and the techniques to do that. And His Holiness will share some of them in this film, you'll see.
You had said in an interview a long time ago in the magazine Lion's Roar, which for those not familiar is a really lovely independent magazine about Buddhism, but you had given an interview in 1999, I want to say it was, that I went back and read, and you had talked about how you turned to the Dalai Lama regularly as kind of a root guru, but over the years, the teacher and student relationship has evolved, because as you've strengthened in your practice, he can be a little bit harsher with you, or he feels comfortable giving you sort of different kinds of guidance, right? So talk a little bit about that evolution of your practice and how your relationship with him has changed.
It's a little tricky because if it was up to me, I would just be the student. And I would be the one who crawls in and does prostrations, and I would be fine with that. But the way it's evolved, I help in many different ways, politically and in sponsoring teachings around the world, many different things. So I have many different hats that I wear in kind of separate but parallel relationships with the Dalai Lama. And he probably feels the same way with me. Sometimes we're just purely organizing. At other times there's a teaching going on that's informal. Sometimes it's a formal, very formal teaching. So sometimes it's a little awkward for me because I'm not sure quite where we're at. So I've had to navigate that in my lifetime. It's been a bit peculiar. Again, relating to this film, I think this is as close as you will ever get to having a personal teaching with the Dalai Lama. This is very rare. And you'll see the man and who he is. And there's the full range, you know. He gets kind of uptight about things once in a while. Things don't happen on time. Someone, you know, expected something to happen, it didn't happen. You know, he goes, no, you know. But he drops it right away. It's just burned and then it's gone. And no one personalizes that with him. The vastness of him is never absent. You know, Tenzin Gyatso, Tencho is his niece who is here. And although she looks like she's 14 years old, she's a little older than that. But she should probably talk about this because she's had so many powerful and intimate, but every day at the same time, moments being with the man as well as the great teacher. In my lifetime, you know, there was the Dalai Lama before the Nobel Peace Prize and after. And it wasn't quite the same. It was before it was kind of available, never completely available, but it was like there was more, it seemed like there was more time. After that, he became more of the universal teacher. And he didn't just belong to Tibet, he belonged to everybody. And you've seen how that has taken off. He doesn't even look Tibetan anymore to me. He looks like my father. I think everyone feels that. It's my dad, you know, the warm, generous, wise, funny guy. But he's also this extraordinary being at the same time. And for him, there's no contradiction in that. Of being sometimes a goofball, completely a goofball, but a universal teacher at the same time.
One of the themes that comes up in the film, and that Jonas referenced earlier too, is how much, I mean, we're just living in this modern digital world where we are just soaked by technology. And His Holiness, the Dalai Lama, says that he appreciates modern technology, and you know, a lot of society is putting their hopes on it these days. But that also it creates this kind of never-ending competition, this bottomless want, this never-ending pit of desire. And I'm wondering how technology plays a role in your life, and what your relationship is to technology, how it intersects with your spirituality.
I have no relationship to it. We were like trying to figure out, how do I give my phone number to this guy over here? Could someone show me how to do, what button do I push? I mean, I don't know anything about it. Of course, my 5-year-old and 6-year-old, and now 13 years, his birthday is 13 right now, today. They know everything. My wife knows everything. I don't know anything about technology. But I don't think the Tibetans were ever interested in external technology anyhow. They made a choice 1,500 years ago to look at interior technology. And they are so far beyond us of being able to quantify and qualify the minute movements of the mind, the minute movements of energy in the body. Very specific and intricate words for those intricacies of the interior beings that we are in terms of consciousness and awareness, afflictive emotions, and the ability to be able to detach and see it clearly. And that's, I don't know how many generations that is, 1,500 years, but that is their technology. That is their deep, nothing Silicon Valley could never come up with what these guys have developed over 1,500 years and made it the basis of their culture. They didn't build factories. They built monasteries, great monasteries of learning, the biggest teaching monasteries, universities in the world of that time were in Lhasa. No place else. It was there, based on the nature of the mind, looking at the nature of the mind. What is this nature of consciousness, awareness, emotion, being, reality? We were talking about, kind of atomic particles. The Buddha was 2,500 years ago. We're talking about the Big Bang, single space, let's translate it, space particle. The universe starts as a space particle, so dense, and then explodes into the multiverse and reaches an equilibrium and retracts back into the single space particle. Doesn't this sound like quantum thinking? And they were able to articulate it. I mean, I had just seen the surface of this in my studies, but it's extraordinary the way that this completely was focused away from the senses. We in the West are completely focused on the senses, what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and then we filter all that through thinking. So we filter a direct experience of the senses even through an overlay in a matrix that is introduced by experience, which is a dead thing, by our experience, then filters every one of those possibly real experiences that are coming from senses. So we live in this kind of fantasy world of out there, which we only know through the senses. They did just the opposite. Let the senses go. Look at reality, awareness, consciousness directly. Much vaster. It's like if you look at the ocean, we're kind of on that surface that is just bubbling at the very top of the ocean. They decided to go down to the bottom of the ocean that was more vast and open with all possibilities.
So it's safe to say you are not talking to the Dalai Lama about AI.
I was thinking about that today, and I said, these words don't seem to go together, do they? Artificial and intelligence.
It's an oxymoron, yeah.
I go, wow, that's a concept. How could it be intelligence if it was artificial? Doesn't seem possible.
It's all the rage here. So you've obviously been a big advocate, right, for the freedom of the Tibetan people and the support of their culture. And I mean, that has come, at some cost, at some personal sacrifice to you over the years in terms of how people have reacted to your values and your activism. And you brought up earlier how the past year and a half have been an incredibly trying time for our society, and particularly here in the US, given the political climate. So I'm wondering if there's something that people can learn from your experience, having, been someone who's so outspoken about human rights abuses, what we can learn from your experience in terms of the type of actions we all should be taking, or at least thinking about in today's climate.
Well, I don't think I'm an avatar in any way whatsoever, but I think if we just look around at the really great figures, even the ones in our time, it looks like you're going to play the piano or something.
You're going to come in with a hook and pull us off stage. Fantastic, thank you.
It's not that hard to tell the truth. It's harder to lie. It takes a lot more energy to lie. It takes a lot more energy to negate our true feelings, the soft feelings that we have, the warmth that we have. Much easier to go with that. It's hard to be hard. I think it's just, you see in the film, His Holiness keeps saying over and over again, a warm heart. That's a beginning point, just a warm heart. Just to drop it all, just a warm heart. We all want to hug. We all want to hug others. I mean, that's when we feel good. It's not when we're clever or cool or in control. It's not, it doesn't feel that good. It's to be soft and human, open, loving, kind, and allow that truth to radiate to others, knowing that they are too. We all want the same thing, that sense of belonging and being safe, being vast, creative, open, you know. And those are very different than this world we're leaning towards now. And this person who's president now, everything is counter to that. But it's a call to action as you see this film in a kind of subversive way of, if there is this other world, what are you going to do about it? You got to be in the world, not separate from it, in the world and change it. His Holiness has often said to me, he said, look, prayer is pretty extraordinary, but it doesn't really change the world. People change the world. People made it the kind of funky world it is now. It's up to people to change it. And of course, we have to do that together. As we've started talking, it's like we're not weak and we're not separate. We're strong, we're vast, and we're deeply interconnected. And if we acknowledge that and do it, the bad guys don't win. It's impossible. So we'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Richard Gere.
It's a privilege to welcome you tonight for your consideration, Swiss edition. We're gathered here tonight with some extraordinary storytellers. I want to extend a special welcome to the executive producer and the man whose dedication to the cause of compassion is known to us all, Mr. Richard Gere. Welcome. The artistic force behind the project, the brilliant Swiss directors who have brought this vision to the screen and will join us later, Barbara Miller and Philippe Delacqui. I also founded specifically for His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And so when Wisdom of Happiness, directed by two Swiss directors and American partners featuring the Dalai Lama, we see this as a continuation of this 60 years plus relationship. So I believe Barbara and Philip have achieved something vital with this film, striping away the distance between the viewer and the subject. And you will see when His Holiness speaks to the camera, he's speaking directly to you, the audience. So I think this documentary offers a rare gift, the opportunity to sit with one of the great teachers and to simply listen. So to Richard, Barbara, and Philip, thank you for bringing this light into the world. And to all of you, thank you for being here.
Hello. Oh, Richard, are you? Yeah, I've been asked to be very brief. So my name is Kunjo Tashi, and I'm the president of the Tibetan Association of Northern California here, which is about almost about 5,000 Tibetans living in the Bay Area. Essentially, I'm not here just on behalf of the Tibetans here in the Bay Area, but I am here on behalf of 6 million Tibetans who are still undergoing a lot of hardship back at home in Tibet, and on also behalf of the Tibetan children, who are over 1 million Tibetan children at this point of time who are forcibly taken away from their parents and put in residential schools in China where they are only taught Mandarin and about communist ideology. And so I'm also on behalf of the Tibetans here, including on His Holiness and all the Tibetans here, to thank you for all these years of support to the Tibetans here. So you've been a godsend for the Tibetans here. you went above and beyond to help our cause, at the cost of your professional and personal kind of life. So, like on behalf of all the Tibetans here, I just want to offer this white scarf, which signifies purity and goodwill, and on behalf of all the Tibetans. So thank you so much, Richardla, and I hope you have a good and healthy and long life to you. Thank you so much.